Welcome to your Weather Impact Extended Weekend Forecast, exclusively here on 13 WMAZ+. I'm meteorologist Alex Pride. Each week we'll be taking an in-depth look at your forecast ahead, along with giving you an inside look of what we're up to on the weather team. Let's jump right into it. Taking a look at Future View, what's in store for the course of your weekend? Well, Friday will mark our second dry day in a row without any rain chances. You see, we can't wrap up our Friday evening or Friday nighttime plans any better here in central Georgia. There were some clouds in the picture. It was a pretty gloomy start to your Friday morning. Not going to be the case as you wrap up Friday. A great night for outdoor plans, maybe a cookout, maybe going out to dinner with your friends and family, celebrating all of those wonderful graduates about to walk across that stage here shortly. Now we go into Saturday, and you can see there's a bit more of an active picture, especially up to the north of us here in the northern portion of the state. By 7 a.m., it looks like the clouds are back to kick off your Saturday morning, maybe a little clearing towards the east so you can get some glimpses of some sunshine. But then we go into the late morning hours on Saturday. Not seeing much in the way of activity. That line of showers, even storms to the north, does start to fall apart as it crosses into the state of Georgia during a cooler portion of the day as we get into the morning hours, and it doesn't have as much to work with in terms of instability, shear, all of those ingredients that you do need for severe weather. So Saturday, 11 a.m., still looking nice and dry. But once we go into the afternoon hours, we start to see maybe some scattered dots pop up. That's when temperatures are going to continue to warm up. We're going to have sufficient humidity here, and the boundary that's actually driving that line of showers and storms pushing into the state of Georgia will make its way a little farther southward, but it's looking to stall in our northernmost counties along the I-20 corridor just north of us here in central Georgia. So there will be a lot of lift ahead of the boundary as it does stall right there. So we could see some isolated or some scattered showers. Can't rule out a strong or a severe thunderstorm or two as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening. Now we go into your Sunday morning forecast. Still looking like maybe some clouds are going to greet us out the door each and every morning this weekend, but still trending dry for the first part of your Sunday. But as you can see, this kind of cluster of thunderstorms right here moving in from the northwest, and by about noon on Sunday is kind of the timing we might be able to expect this cluster of some active weather to make its presence known. We can notice that maybe this is taking a bit of a bowing shape, so kind of looking like a little bit of a boomerang right here. That's going to indicate some gusty winds continuing to push that line of rain a little bit ahead of what the rest of the line of the rain is doing speed-wise. So that's going to be indicating that our fair share of gusty winds might be enveloped within this cluster. But Sunday, getting into your afternoon hours is mainly the timing of this MCS, which is basically a fancy term for a line of thunderstorms throughout central Georgia. It does start to clear as we head into the later portions, the tail end of your weekend on Sunday evening around 6 p.m. And then we go all the way into your Sunday night at 9 p.m. Still plenty of active weather up to the west, maybe to the northwest of us, and that looks like it will try to creep its way into central Georgia again, kind of a secondary line as we head overnight Sunday into early Monday morning. But a lot of the intensity with that starts to fizzle out as we are going into the overnight hours, and temperatures will be a little bit cooler. So everything that you just saw has correlated to these two severe weather risks. We have a level 1 out of 5 risk for almost all of central Georgia. Some of our southern counties or southeastern counties are left out of this level 1 risk. Doesn't mean that they couldn't get severe weather. Again, these outlooks that we give them, or the SPC rather does give them, don't necessarily, or the weather doesn't necessarily follow these boundaries that are set, but the potential threats for some gusty winds, even some small hail do exist with some strong to severe thunderstorms. That will be mainly the timing of Saturday afternoon, maybe a little bit into the evening. Future View didn't pick up on as much activity, so I think this threat is a little bit lower than what we do have in place for your Sunday. This is your day 3 storm outlook, and again, these are going to change over the course of the weekend. Be sure you're staying up to date with David Guerrero and Ansley Parker's forecast all throughout the weekend. But this level 1 out of 5 risk does extend for all of central Georgia. So this is going to go from Jasper County all the way down to Telfair County, Upson County, all the way over to Johnson County. Everyone's in this green shade right here, which once again means you have the chance of seeing maybe a gusty thunderstorm or possibly some hail enveloped within that. But it does look like it has more organization with it that we just saw on the models for your Sunday as opposed to Saturday. So I think the trend this weekend is going to be the earlier the better for any outdoor plans, outdoor graduation celebrations, maybe going to the ballpark, whatever you do have, maybe hitting the pool because it's going to be a very warm weekend, borderline hot, I might add. So we'll get into that because that's actually going to be a big talking point other than the potential for some storms this weekend. Friday, a high temperature of 93. I do believe most areas that didn't quite reach the 90-degree mark this past week are finally going to reach it as you go into your Friday, and the 90s are still remaining in the picture for Saturday and for your Sunday. And with a little bit of humidity present, these temperatures could feel even a little bit warmer, but a 30% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm on Saturday as opposed to a 60% on Sunday because there's more organization with Sunday's rain chance, and it does look like a good amount of organization making kind of a cluster or a line of showers and thunderstorms on Sunday. So it will remain very important to always keep weather aware during the course of this weekend, especially if you do have anything in the way of some outdoor activities. Now going into your Muggy Meter. I brought this back last week, I think, and this is going to tell the story, especially when we have warmer temperatures. How warm is it going to feel outside? But do we have the ingredients present for sprouting maybe some severe weather or some stronger weather? So right here you see your dew point temperatures, and this correlates with our dew point map that we do typically show each and every morning. Dew point temperatures in the 60s, that's getting to a noticeable humid, but once you get into the 70s, these dark green shades, that's that really swampy air, and that's what can start to lead to those pop-up showers and thunderstorms that come up out of nowhere like we typically see during the summertime months. Well, the dew point temperatures are going to hover in between the 60s and the 70s. We'll have some shades of dark green, we'll have some shades of light green for Friday and Saturday. We do see a little bit of a downtick on Sunday. However, not that much of a downtick. We'll still have good enough moisture at the surface that will contribute to maybe the intensifying of some weather in the form of some of those storms. And the humidity really stays present in these 60s, these dew point temperatures, all the way until Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday. But after Wednesday, you see a drastic downhill slope. That's when we're looking at another front to finally usher in some drier air and also some slightly cooler air. We'll talk more about that once we get into your extended forecast. So combining the actual temperatures and how much humidity is present, we're going to go to our Future View Feels Like map. What's it actually going to feel like outside? Because those actual temperatures aren't going to really mean anything if it is going to feel a little bit warmer. How about mid-90s for the heat of the day on Friday? We go overnight into your Saturday afternoon. It's the same story, maybe feeling like 95, 96, but you do notice some lighter shades here in central Georgia. If you do get anything in the way of rain, it will cool your temperatures down a little bit more, maybe somewhere down into the 80s, but we'll take it on to Sunday to really show you this difference between the rain-cooled air and what's present during the hot and humid atmosphere that we wouldn't have without the rain-cooled air. This is Sunday at 3 p.m. Feels like 92 in Dublin. However, up here in Macon, if we do see a good cluster of rain, feels like 71 degrees. So the rain can be very, very good for at least cooling you down. It's really humid after you get rain in these warmer months of the year. But before you get that rain, you will see feels like numbers that are going to exceed the 90-degree mark far and wide across central Georgia. And then you finally see those low 70s, mid 70s feels like temperatures kind of get more widespread going into your Sunday evening and into overnight into Monday. So with warm temperatures, it's always a good reminder to make sure that you're taking care of your pets, not only yourself. Obviously, we tell you to stay hydrated. We tell you to put the sunscreen on. But remember your furry friends, because the temperatures, 85, 90, 95, don't think we'll get their actual air temperature up to 95, but they will be around 90 degrees. But concrete and asphalt can hover around 125 or 140 on the asphalt, because that asphalt does absorb more heat since it's a darker color as opposed to concrete. We're getting into that season where if you're taking your pets on a walk, try to keep them off those hot surfaces, or also get them a pair of shoes if you are taking them out on a walk in the neighborhood to kind of insulate their paws, because those are very warm temperatures and they can result in probably some injuries and your pet's not feeling too good when they are going on their afternoon walk. So this is the last weekend of the regular season college baseball season. We have two forecasts to show you, one of which will be the Georgia Bulldogs up in Athens for their closing weekend of SEC play against the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, they played game one on Thursday. Thankfully, the Dogs pulled out a big win, 10-6 on Thursday night. Game two will be Friday at 6 p.m., going to be a warm one. just shy of the 90-degree mark with mostly sunny skies. And then for Game 3, that will be Saturday at noon. There's a chance of a shower, but temperatures in the mid-80s and a little bit cooler if you do run into that shower. So if you're planning on making a hike up 441, going to watch the Diamond Dogs on Saturday afternoon, be sure to pack the rain jacket just in case you run into some of that rain. And back here at home, the Mercer Bulldogs, I'm trying to combine the two names right there. The Mercer Bears are squaring off in their last SoCon series against the Sanford Bulldogs, trying to combine those two names right there. But the Bears did take Game 1 on Thursday night of a score of 2-1. Game 2 Friday at 6 p.m. at Ortho Georgia Park. It's going to be a hot one. 92 feels even warmer, mostly sunny skies, nothing to really keep you in the shade, but necessarily, or feel some of those cooler temperatures. So definitely pack the sunscreen, lather up in that, and be sure to stay hydrated out at Ortho Georgia Park. The good news is by about 6 p.m. on Friday, those temperatures will have already hit their peak, so they will begin to cool down steadily as you head throughout the baseball game into the late innings. Game 3 Saturday at 2 p.m. There is a chance of seeing a storm. That's around the time that Future View was hinting that we might see some rain start to pop back up along that stalled boundary, which will be just to the north of us, kind of along the I-20 corridor. But temperatures will try to soar into the low 90s before you do get maybe a chance of a shower or a storm. Sunset going to be almost at 8:30 this weekend, 8:28 here in Macon. So here's your Grillcast for the weekend ahead. Friday, I think you are good to go. Fire up the grill, have green spatulas on the board, but conditions steadily get a little bit worse. Have a little bit of caution on Saturday afternoon and the evening hours. The rain is mainly looking to be of the scattered nature as of right now, but obviously keep a close eye on the radar before going out to the grill. Sunday is the day I would definitely advise ordering in, because it does look like the rain is a little more widespread, some organization with it, some gusty winds, not something that you'll want to fire the grill up for by any means. So like I said, the earlier, the better for any outdoor plans you have this weekend. And that will go for your pool forecast as well. Friday and Saturday are the better days to head out to the pool with temperatures in the low 90s, feeling even warmer. It's going to be a great weekend to try to cool off in the pool. But Sunday, it could get a little bit messy. The good news is that hopefully we can get 2 days before we get into the messy weather on Sunday, where most people are able to enjoy the pool. And of course, when you are out at the pool, when thunder roars, be sure to head indoors. Lightning striking the water is definitely something that is not good for anyone, and you don't want to have the risk of that whatsoever. So my weekend attire, or my recommended weekend attire, obviously you do as you please, but Friday, t-shirts, sunglasses, sunscreen, water bottle. Be sure to enjoy this early summer preview that we have. For Saturday and Sunday, it's going to kind of be a mix of the closet. You can still wear your short sleeves and your shorts and grab your sunscreen, of course, but have that rain gear on standby on Saturday. But Sunday, probably a day that you're not going to want to spend too much time outside. If you are, once again, have that rain jacket and that umbrella ready to go. But things are probably going to get messy if you do run into a severe thunderstorm or a strong thunderstorm. So try to head indoors if you are outside and you do see the weather approaching, about to get a little bit messy. But thankfully, we finally did end this very dreary stretch that we've been under. In fact, over the past week or two, we've had 8 days in a row with rain chances. That finally came to an end Thursday, and for Friday ahead for your weekend. So during this dreary stretch, a lot of you sent in some amazing photos of the active weather as it was happening. David Guerrero shares some of the shots that you got in the 13 WMAZ Weather Network.
Well, over the past 5 days, we had no shortage of storms here in central Georgia, and we have some photos from the 13 WMAZ Weather Network to share to you. Well, this first image comes from Stephen Parker as he took this image of 3 scud clouds off in the distance. Now, this may look a little scary. It actually looks like funnel clouds, but thankfully, scud clouds are very harmless. And the difference between scud clouds and funnel clouds is that scud clouds do not rotate. So without any rotation, there's no threat for any tornadoes. And scud clouds are just fragments of warm air that has condensed and turned into low-lying clouds. So thank you very much, Stephen. Those are some fantastic images. Travis Butler took this image from Macon of a shelf cloud, which is a more organized wall of clouds. Now, this is due to the rain within the storm cooling the air and causing the warm air in the leading edge of the storm to rise, creating this very organized line of clouds. And this is why you typically see shelf clouds within cold fronts, but sometimes you can see them within pop-up storms like this. in Macon. So thank you very much, Travis, for those wonderful images. Tammy Kirby Hughes took this image of a layer of cumulus clouds in Wheeler County. We're not seeing any signs of storms. We're actually seeing signs of sunshine trying to go through these clouds. And that is the reason why these clouds give off a purple hue, which actually look very majestic and royal. So thank you so much, Tammy, for that wonderful image. And to share more photos to the 13WMAZ Weather Network, or to look at the photos from other Central Georgians, you can scan this QR code or simply search 13WMAZ Weather Network on Facebook. It is that easy.
Definitely some great shots right there. Thank you for sharing those, David. But the rainy stretch that we just got through wasn't all bad by any means. It actually brought us some much needed rain here in Central Georgia. So let's break those down by the numbers. I took this snapshot of the 5-day rainfall totals a little bit earlier this past week. So this was taken as of May 13th, which I do believe was this past Tuesday. And you can see there are going to be a lot of areas with a 2 in front of that number. Most areas probably fell within the 2 to 3 to 4 inch range in terms of their rainfall totals. You obviously see this shade of blue right here, which is going to be indicating rain of about 1/10 of an inch, 2/10 of an inch. This is actually right on top of where our Jeffersonville radar is. The radar scans outward, not right on top of it. So that's why we didn't get anything in the way of a lot of rainfall totals right here over Jeffersonville. So that's the one outlier on kind of the left end of the scale, but you can see there are plenty of shades of some red starting to get into some pink colors. So we saw some locally heavy amounts of rain that resulted from some strong and severe thunderstorms. One of those areas was Dooley County. Right here around Unadilla, about 7.6 inches of rain over a 5-day course, 7.4 inches of rain to the west of Vienna in the western edge of Dooley County. So definitely a lot of rain during a short period of time. Thankfully, it was spread over the course of at least 5 days. We've seen plenty of weather systems that have dumped that amount of rain in maybe a 24 or 48-hour period. But some areas did fall below the threshold, maybe that 2 to 4 inch range, maybe only about 1.5 inches in Irwinton and Wilkinson County, just shy of 2 inches around the Abbeville area in Wilkinson County. But then you do see our south and our southeastern counties have plenty of shades of the dark red and the pink once again. 7.7 inches on the line of Wheeler County and Montgomery counties. Around Vidalia, about 10 inches of rain over this 5-day stretch, and that's not even as high as it does go. Thankfully, this didn't make its way into Central Georgia, but you take a trip down I-16 just south of Metter, Georgia. So it's going to see it right here to the southwest of Statesboro. 17.2 inches of rain over this 5-day stretch, and we did find some pixels that amounted to even more than that. So thankfully we didn't see this kind of white and gray shaded area creep over a little bit more into our south and our southeastern counties, but those counties definitely did get some of the higher totals of rain. It seemed like every time we were looking at the radar, there was a good cluster of some thunderstorms over those areas. So where does that put us for the month of May? Well, you probably guessed it. We are definitely above average with rain getting reported. Look at this, about 6 days and about a 7-day period right here. Actually 5 days and a 6-day period, excuse me. But this puts us in the very wet category of this daily rainfall, even with the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th not recording any rainfall at Middle Georgia Regional Airport whatsoever. So far in the month of May, we've gotten just over 3.5 inches of rain, and the average amount of rainfall that we typically see in the month of May all time is just over 2.5 inches. So we've already reached above average for the totals this month in May, but nowhere near that record of 11, almost 12 inches of rain back in 1957. That would definitely be resulting in a lot of flood problems and a lot of river flood warnings. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with too much of those. We saw a couple of isolated flash flood warnings, didn't see anything in the way of those aerial flood warnings with the river levels. So for the year of 2025, we're obviously well above average in the month of May. Right now, we're hovering just under 2.5 inches above where we should be at this point in May. We should only have about maybe an inch, 1.2 inches of rain for about 15 days into the month of May, so about the first half of the month. So we are about 2.35 inches above that average, which is good enough for a big green box right here. But But something up here in the top left, you'll see that we're hovering nearly 1/10 of an inch below average in terms of where we should be throughout the entire year so far for rainfall. We actually did hop up above average earlier this week, but with a couple of dry days to end the work week, that's what's resulted in that number going back below the average threshold. But as long as we can keep those numbers really close to average, we're doing pretty good, and we're definitely not needing the water whatsoever. But this is as of May 15th. We have more rain chances in store for the weekend ahead. We'll see if we can add to those totals and get this number back above average. So speaking of all of this, where does this put us in the drought monitor? Something we haven't talked about in quite a while. And the drought monitor has showed maybe some areas of abnormally dry, which is going to be this yellow shade that you see down I-16. So hard to believe that this area I was just telling you about had 17 inches of rain over a 5-day period is still abnormally dry somehow. But these yellow shades are going to be the lowest level of criteria on the drought monitor. Obviously nowhere near the extreme or exceptional drought, which is about as bad as it can get. This came out as of this past Tuesday. No one in central Georgia is under any form of dry conditions. So that is a very welcome sight, and always a good reminder that some good can come from the messy weather, even if it does interrupt a lot of your outdoor plans. So yes, that is where it does put us right here. We are entering these summertime months where these pop-up rain chances are going to happen just about each and every day. Hopefully a lot of those numbers can do a good job at putting us a lot back closer to the average departure of rain where we should be this time of year. Us on the weather team, we get the pleasure of doing a lot of different things outside of the weather system whenever the weather does cooperate with us. This past week, I got the pleasure of going on what is probably going to be my final school visit of the 2024 to 2025 school year down at Sacred Heart Catholic School. Let's take a look at some of these photos that we do have to share from them. Yes, truly just an amazing group of kids that we did have there. And I got the pleasure of speaking to a group of about 40 third graders here at Sacred Heart Catholic School. So here's a look at some of these photos. I told them all about my daily schedule, all about what my job entails, and I got to quiz them on a little bit of weather. I got to speak at their STEM night back in last October, and I'm so glad I got around to making a trip back to speak with these kids. They were so attentive to everything that I had to say, and I ran out of goodies to hand out very quickly for questions answered correctly. You guys definitely made me feel extra special with everyone lining up for me to sign their yearbooks at the end of my little bit of a lecture, but definitely had me feeling like a bit of a Ben Jones with all of the autographs. A special thank you to Mrs. Spradling and Mrs. Anderson for reaching out to have me speak to their classes. Now I'm a little bit sad that this will be one of the last visits I make for this school year, but I could not have asked for a better group of kids to round it up with. Now to the tail end of your Weather Impact extended weekend forecast. We're going to take a look at the second half of your 7-day forecast and what's in store beyond that. We'll pick up the long-range models where we still see plenty of rain chances and plenty of moisture lingering around us in central Georgia. However, if that comes to fruition, we get a better idea once we get our short-range, high-resolution models. It does look like a lot of that moisture does clear out, at least for Tuesday afternoon, so hopefully a dry day before once again we get into next Wednesday. Another frontal boundary looks to take shape, and it actually looks to pass through central Georgia. So number one, some organized rain chances ahead of that approaching front, and it will be during the warmer portion of Wednesday afternoon. Temperatures are still going to be pretty warm, somewhere around 90 degrees. The humidity is still going to be in the forecast. But remember when I showed you that Muggy Meter back at the beginning of this weather forecast? Yes, we did see a huge downtick in the humidity from Wednesday all the way to Thursday. And that will be because this front is going to move through and usher in some cooler being relative. We're going to put air quotes on that. It'll still be warm, but below average temperatures, at least out of the 90s. And will also usher in some drier air. So that's why you see Thursday all the way into Friday afternoon looking nice and dry all across not only the state of Georgia, but basically the entire southeast as a whole. So let's take a look at those afternoon highs, and you can see where the front does finally pass. somewhere around 92 to 90 through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And once again, these temperatures probably going to feel a couple degrees warmer. But then we're down about 9 degrees from Wednesday to Thursday, 81 for a high on Thursday as it does currently stand. We could see that number drop even a little bit farther, but that would put us back below average for this time of year because you see that average high, 86 degrees as of right now, and only going to continue to get higher. But let's take a look at the morning lows. Are we going to have anything in the way of a chill in the air as we head out the door? Well, I don't quite think so. We're getting into the time period where I think the chill is basically out of the window. You really need to get into the lower half of the 50s for that to happen. Maybe even start to flirt with the upper 40s, just depending on what is chilly to you. But still upper 60s and near the 70-degree mark, well above the average low this time of year. We're back closer to average on Thursday morning when the cooler and the drier air starts to usher in. Only a low of 62 degrees, and that still does fall above average for this time. So let's take a look at the temperature outlook as we head into next weekend. Do not get fooled by these blue colors on the temperature outlook. I'm not telling you that it is going to be chilly whatsoever. This is May, so when we see a bit of a cool down, it's pretty relative. It at least just gives us a brief break from the blistering hot heat and all of that humidity. So this is going to start next Friday, May 23rd, all the way until 2 days till the end of the month. We have a pretty good probability, actually about 2 to 3 boxes over here on the left side of the scale, of seeing below normal temperatures. But once again, that's going to be below 86 degrees and below 60 degrees for that average high and that average low. So this very well could just mean we're going to have highs in the low 80s. We're going to have low temperatures, maybe upper 50s, around 60 degrees. Definitely still feels pretty pleasant, and it will be a bit of a welcome sight and a welcome feel outside compared to the heat we have in store this weekend. How about the precipitation outlook? It's actually looking like we're trending dry as we head into the sometime next weekend, at least next weekend all the way through the week after that, heading into the tail end of the month of May. A good probability of many areas seeing below normal rainfall and about near normal for the rest of central Georgia. We're on that kind of dividing line area. So it looks like we might actually be settling into a little bit of that summer pattern. The rain chances may be more scattered, more pop-up with the heat of the day, or not really seeing anything in the way of organized weather systems passing through during an extended period of time. So looking ahead, what do we have on the horizon? We updated this graphic very slightly. Memorial Day weekend coming up very, very fast. That will be a week from Monday, and that's probably going to be a 3-day weekend that you'll be wanting to celebrate with friends and family, also around graduation time for many of our central Georgia counties. Hurricane season right around the corner. That will kick off on June 1st, which is also the start of meteorological summer. However, you see here at the bottom, the first official day of summer will be on June 20th. So we still have a ways to go, even if it will feel a bit like summer out there this weekend. And then Father's Day, that's going to fall on June 15th. We just got out of Mother's Day as of last weekend. So go ahead and mark that down on your calendars, and don't procrastinate and wait till the last minute to buy dad a gift if you were like me and maybe waited till the last minute and waited to buy mom a gift. But with hurricane season kicking off very soon, there's something I want to throw on your radar. Number one, the NOAA hurricane forecast. We were talking about it a couple weeks ago. Colorado State released their hurricane forecast, and they forecasted an above average season, but not quite as active as we were last year, excuse me. The NOAA will release their forecast on May 22nd, so that's going to be next Thursday. Kind of give us an idea about how the two forecasts are shaping up from one another for what's in store for the hurricane season ahead. But as of this past Thursday, May 15th, the daily National Hurricane Center forecast, where we start to see those areas of development with the percent chances of developing into something more organized, that started this past Thursday. Luckily, nothing is in store for the next 2 to 7 days, but that will be something we have to monitor very closely coming into work each and every day. And once we start to get those on the outlook, we will be the first to let you know, because obviously, given everything that happened last year with hurricane season, and it's still going to, or right now as forecasted, trying to be a bit of an above average hurricane season. That's something we want to get all the information out to you as quick and as frequent as we can. And the weather team here is working very, very hard on a hurricane special that will be here on 13 WMAZ, and we will release it here in the next week or so. That will do it for your Weather Impact extended weekend forecast. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to tune in again next Friday at 10:30 for the latest from your 13 WMAZ weather team.